Welcome to another episode of the Spectral Quest. I'm your host, Harris Lamonti. We are at the Rural Cemetery in Santa Rosa, California. This 17-acre historic landmark is located in the heart of Santa Rosa, and it was a burial for the local residents from 1850s through 1930s. This cemetery was established as a result of an accident. In November of 1854, a young father who arrived from Missouri just a few weeks before drowned in a pond near the center of town. He was buried here, on land that was part of the Mexican grant given to one of the earliest settlers of Santa Rosa. In 1867, the Santa Rosa Rural Cemetery Association was formed, and this 17-acre burial plot site was formally offered for sale. One thing that is very unique about this cemetery is the detailed record keeping of the people that have been buried here in this land. On this episode, we'll be hearing some of their stories, the last moments of some of the residents of this cemetery, and we'll be doing a night investigation to talk with them to see what they have to say. All this when we come back. The Santa Rosa Rural Cemetery is a very special place for me. There is much paranormal activity, both day and night. I have captured the presence of many spirits, both in pictures and many EVPs. Here in this place, I had one of the most exciting experiences that I have ever encountered in my paranormal career. The energy here is strong and commanding, and yet still has an amazing sense of peace and tranquility when you come to visit. To help us to get to know more about the people that are buried here, we talked to Rebecca Thomas. We visited several of the residents' grave sites and heard some of the details of their lives and their deaths. I first met Rebecca in April 2018, while she was giving one of the night tours that the Rural Cemetery offers to the public. On that Friday the 13th tour, we were told the story of how 13 different cemetery inhabitants met with their demise. The tour included a theatrical group acting out the stories as they were being told, bringing these grisly tales to life or death. With the use of simple sets, costume, props, and lighting, creating dramatic vignettes.
So my name is Rebecca Thomas, and I've been a docent for the Santa Rosa Rural Cemetery for about 20 years. And I do the Dark Side Tour, which is the tours about the murders and the suicides and the tragic endings. And the Lamplight Tours, which are held in the third weekend of September every year. We've been doing that for 21 years. So we're here the Earthquake Memorial, and this is a mass burial. We have a lot of interesting people here. We have Cecilia Heath, which is over here, with just her initials, CH. Her stage name was Miss Excelsia, and her act was Juggling Rifles. And she was performing at the Novelty Theater her troupe was just here in town temporarily when the earthquake hit. She was staying at the Ramona Lodge, and she is the only one of her troupe that was killed during the earthquake. And it is said that she is still looking for the rest of her troupe, so sometimes you might see her wandering around. We also have George and William Bluth, two newspaper boys that were working at the Press Democrat the night of the earthquake, and they ran out of the building and they were crushed by the falling courthouse dome. Then over here we have Joseph Wood. He was a hop spire from New York. He was staying in town at the Western Hotel. He always stayed there when he came to town to buy hops, and he took the train, got off, and went to the Western Hotel. But on the night of the earthquake, or the early morning of the earthquake, the Western Hotel part of the wall fell in and crushed him while he was still in bed. People say that they can still see Joseph Wood wandering around in what is now the Flying Goat Cafe, which is at the bottom part of the Western Hotel. A short, bald man sometimes is seen wandering around looking very confused. The reason the fires devastated Santa Rosa so badly during the earthquake was because the firehouse was a 2-story building, and the horses were in the bottom story, and when the building fell, it killed all the horses, and the firemen didn't have any horses to carry the carts around to put the fires out.
Here, let me turn it on.
Something's tapping me like this back here.
Oh, so they want to talk to you. So EVP session number 1, we're at the Rural Cemetery, Santa Rosa, California, September 3rd, 2018. So Chelsea is not feeling good right now. She's feeling an easy energy. Anyone to say something to her?
Am I feeling where they stored the bodies behind us? It really just piercing my ears on both sides, coming in really strong.
Was somebody left in that building for a long time, and that's why you're not happy?
That was Harris, deep breath.
Who is bugging me right now? Why am I feeling anxious? Why do I feel this way right now? Is anybody with me?
Okay, we're at 2 minutes. We're gonna listen back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want to listen back now?
Oh yes,
Yeah,
for
okay.
sure. We're at the Rural Cemetery, Santa Rosa, California, September. Cemetery, Santa Rosa, California.
Here, right underneath you.
September,
Right up.
the Cemetery, Santa Rosa,
Right there.
California. September 3rd, 2018. So Chelsea is not feeling good right now. Did you hear that?
You wouldn't.
Chelsea is not feeling sick.
Oh yeah.
Good right now.
Something there.
She's feeling an easy energy. Anyone to say something to her?
Am I feeling that was you?
Whoa. Okay.
No,
Am I feeling?
no, that was not me.
Whoa. Okay.
See?
Am I feeling where they stored the bodies
It's
behind us?
happening again,
Yeah.
That was not me. Right after it was not me.
Piercing my ears on both sides, coming in really strong.
So somebody left
Yeah.
in that building for a long time, and that's why you're not happy?
Did you hear that?
That's why you're not happy?
They're talking
yeah,
very faintly
yeah.
back there.
There was another one
Yeah.
there, yeah.
You said, oh no, I said that's Harris because you were breathing.
That was Harris, deep
Yeah.
breath.
So you take a deep breath.
Who is bugging me
That was
right
weird.
now? Why am I feeling anxious? Why
A lot of
do I feel
noises.
this way right now? Is anybody with me?
Okay, we're at 2 minutes. We're gonna listen back. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we are here at the entrance of the original entrance of the Santa Rosa Rural Cemetery. And we're in front of Mr. Alan Lemon's plot. And at the time of the 1906 earthquake, there were two Santa Rosa newspapers. One was the Santa Rosa Republican, and the other one was the Sonoma Democrat. And Alan Lemon was the editor of the Santa Rosa Republican, and he was actually away during the earthquake. The other editor was in town, and after the earthquake, they contacted each other and decided to, they each had damage to some of their equipment, so they decided to merge to see if they could get one newspaper out, which they did. So for 48 days, we had one newspaper that was called the Republican Democrat. And Mr. Lemon has been seen in our cemetery several times when we have some of our events. And we have a photo of a picture of him over by one of those pillars over there. And we decided that he is called our social ghost because he's still looking for a good story. So every time we have an event, he comes out to see what's going on.
The study of the paranormal is a mysterious, unknown, and sometimes a strange realm that we know little about. One that often leaves us with more questions than answers. My purpose for making this series is to inform the viewers, to give them the tools to make informed judgment on the subject, and to answer as many questions as possible. I understand that some are uneasy or uncomfortable concerning the paranormal, while others are downright scared. But for what reason? Maybe they believe that they can be physically hurt by these unknown entities. Keep this in mind. Spirits are around us all the time. They are watching us in our daily lives, next to us, seeing what we do at every moment. So think of it this way. If these spirits are constantly around us, day in and day out, wouldn't they have heard us by now? Now, there are reports of mischievous and annoying spirits causing harm to some, but these tales are far and few between. There are several reasons for spirits to hang around. Some of these curious entities are here for a specific individual. Those would be called guardian angels. I'm hoping that the more information I can provide about the other side of the paranormal, making the subject less mysterious, the more comfortable the living will become with the dead.
As a paranormal investigator, I'm often asked what happens to evil people when they die. Do they stay here? Do they get to go and become angels, guides, or do they take their consciousness with them? What happens? And my view on that is, or do they go to hell, because they're evil? Most of the time that I've experienced with more, I'm just going to say heavier energy, that just didn't feel right. It was very uncomfortable. That person, to me, has suffered from maybe a mental illness, or just done something that they just want forgiveness for. I mean, we can all, as humans, as souls, really understand that forgiveness does a lot. It does a lot for us. And one of the last investigations that I did, there was a heavy spirit. Some people might have said it's demonic, it's scary. But once we started cleansing that house and breaking down the barriers of that entity, he was able to get weaker and actually explain what his problem was. And what it was just that he felt so bad. He felt bad for antagonizing a little girl. He felt bad for some things he did here. He just wanted to be forgiven. And we did. I said, we forgive you. And that was it. He left the building.
If someone was a bad person in life, it doesn't mean that after she or he dies, they will automatically become evil. I believe that evil people have a kind of chemical imbalance that doesn't allow them to think like the others do. When bad people die, they go through a confusing period. They need time to understand and process their new state. Revenge is the last thing that will be on their minds.
Okay, here we are at Sergeant Thomas Goodman's gravesite, and he is the lone survivor of the Centralia massacre during the Civil War. And he was actually on a train going on furlough with about 30 other Union soldiers when the train was stopped in Centralia by Bill Anderson. And he was what they would say a Confederate gone wild, because he was very angry at the time because his best friend, Cave Wyatt, had been captured by the Union. So he wanted to do something in retaliation. So he stopped the train and made the 30 Union soldiers get out. He had them take off their uniforms, so they were all standing there in their long johns. And he asked for any officer to step forward, and nobody did. So he asked again, and Sergeant Goodman thought, well, he probably wants to shoot the officers, but they also probably saw the stripes on my shoulder, so I think I'll step forward. So he stepped forward. He was the only one that was saved. Everybody else was slaughtered. They were not only slaughtered, they were parts of their bodies were put on the train track, and the train ran over them. It was a very bloody massacre. And ever since then, Bill Anderson was known as Bloody Bill Anderson. And the reason they saved Sergeant Thomas Goodman was because they wanted to trade him for his Bill Anderson's friend, Cave Wyatt.
It is said that a picture speaks 1,000 words, and we only see what we want to see. These adages might be true. However, there will always be those who will disclaim physical proof of paranormal occurrences. The truth is that what you see is just a perspective of your reality. The image that you have in your mind about things will overrule what your eyes are actually seeing. For a lot of people, faith is everything. The stronger of the spirits have the power to change their appearance. Some entities can manifest to appear as a child or a teenager, an adult or very old. Some have the ability to take basically any shape or any form they decide. The following pictures were taken during a photo investigation that I did in this cemetery. Remember, the point of this demonstration is not to convince you or to make you a believer. It is to simply show you another observation perspective. When we decide to investigate a specific place, we are aware that we may not find anything of paranormal value, but that doesn't mean that the place doesn't have any paranormal activity. That's why we do multiple investigations. It took us many visits to the Santa Rosa Rural Cemetery to collect all the evidence that we are presenting in these 2 episodes. Supernatural energy changes constantly. Spirits are continuously moving about, making themselves known, hiding, or just watching quietly. These are but a few reasons why sometimes we are successful in collecting evidence and sometimes all we get is white noise. The following story started in San Francisco. The tragedy came to an end here in 1920.
Okay, here we are at the hanging tree, and the story here is in December of 1920, Sheriff Petrie, who was a much beloved sheriff in town, was helping out the Santa Rosa detectives to find the Howard Street Gang. Howard Street Gang consisted of 3 gentlemen. They were Terrence Fitz, Charlie Valento, and George Boyd. And they had assaulted some women in San Francisco, and it was rumored that they might be hiding out here in Santa Rosa at Pete Gadotti's house because he was one of their friends. So the sheriff and the San Francisco police detectives decided that they were going to surround the Gadotti house and then go inside and get these guys. So they went in, but when they did, the gentlemen were armed, and they shot the sheriff and they shot the detectives. So the 3 of them were all dead inside, but as the criminals ran out, they didn't realize that the house was surrounded. So they were all caught and taken to the Santa Rosa jail. Then when the town heard that their beloved sheriff was dead, they all got together, a bunch of vigilantes, mostly from Healdsburg, and decided they were going to take care of these guys themselves. So the story is that they went in to get the keys for the jail, and they were just handed to them. They got the 3 criminals out and brought them up to the cemetery here and decided to hang them from the hanging tree. It wasn't called the hanging tree at that time, of course, but they They hung them all up. And when they took them down, they decided to sell the news in 1-inch pieces for souvenirs. People would come to the tree and take off pieces of the bark and sell those for souvenirs. So it became kind of a disgrace in the town, and a ladies' organization decided they should cut the tree down, which they did. And this is the seedling from the hanging tree. We had some people out here with their paranormal equipment to check out the hanging tree because they thought this was the hanging tree. And they didn't get any reaction at all on their machines. But I told them that the actual hanging tree was across the way here. And when they moved over there, they got all kinds of reaction on their machines. Terrence Fitz and George Boyd are both buried here in this cemetery in unmarked graves. We know the area where they are, not the exact spot, but they were in unmarked graves because they didn't want any further action or vandalism or anything in the cemetery. And Charlie Valento was sent back to San Francisco where he was buried.
During a previous investigation with the team and I, we were brought to this location and this spot. And during this spot, I had picked up on a shooting. I picked up sheriffs. I picked up like bandits and sheriffs like shooting each other. I also picked up a hanging, which technically I guess there was a hanging tree here. And then also I was seeing a bunch of horses like Western, or I'm not sure what kind of horses, but I was seeing a lot of horses also in this area. So when I was walking up to this spot, I was feeling unmarked graves amongst this area. And after the shootout with the cops and the bandits, the 3 were captured and they were brought here and they were hung right behind here with the hanging tree. And then they were buried in unmarked graves across the cemetery in what is called a pauper's grave.
Look at the sun.
So, are the 3 guys that were hanging here, any of you still here? Are you still roaming this cemetery? Any of you still here? Are you still roaming this cemetery? Have you talked to the sheriff that you killed? Nothing. Those guys are not here.
Oh no. Those guys are not here.
Oh no.
She said that.